Get in today's very important lecture this Saturday afternoon. I want to take a moment to thank all of my supporters and everyone for supporting my channel. That being said, let's get on down to today's lecture, which is giving out important, valuable information is priceless, especially if it's information relating to a door you have gone through, a process you have gone through. Real talk. Earlier today I was hanging out at Dunkin' Donut. Just hanging out. I love, anywhere time I go somewhere, I'm always paying attention to my environment. I'm engaging people in real life dialogue. People. And as I was sitting down at Dunkin' Donut, I noticed a gentleman, a veteran, obviously a veteran, a Vietnam veteran, and on his Vietnam cap, he served during the era of 1959 to 75. So I was witnessing history standing before me. I'm a veteran. I served during the Desert Storm era, and I just was observing this individual, and he got his coffee, he sat down, and I made it my business to engage him in dialogue. Asked him what branch of service he was in. He served during, he was in the Navy on warships. And that Vietnam era people, when you talk to some people who really served during that era, it was no joke. It was no joke in any shape, form, or fashion to survive the Vietnam era. And I'm sitting here talking to this gentleman about his service. And I'm always, as I'm a veteran, I'm service connected, so I get a disability check from the VA for the rest of my life for my time that I served with my honorable discharge. And, one of the thought-provoking questions I asked him, once I found out a little bit more about him and what branch he served in, because Navy and Marine Corps is really people in the same department. If you see Navy, you're going to see Marine. We serve shoulder to shoulder together. And so I asked him, and he had an honorable discharge. And I said, well, I asked him, do you have 100% service-connected disability when you got out? And I was blown away when he said no. And I said, and I literally sat down and I started talking to him. And I said, I'm going to write down on paper where you need to go to get your disability compensation information filled out so you can be compensated with a check for the rest of your life during your time of serving during the Vietnam era. Because I have no doubt in that era, those, rather you was in the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine, in that Vietnam era people, there was no big brother. Those service men and women went through unimaginable type of abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, unimaginable, up against danger that will haunt them for the rest of their life. And that's one of the reasons they qualify for a disability compensation for life. So I wrote down all of the information on where he needed to go. And I said, because I had to go through the same process to get my VA service connected disability income. And I wrote everything down. I gave him the address on where he needed to go locally. And he was well spoken, to be as up in age as he was. He looked very good for his age, engaging me in conversation. And he literally told me that he applied for the disability, and they just up front told him no years ago. Yeah, they're going to tell you that up front. But I wrote down, I said, because, and he confirmed, yeah, during the Vietnam era, those military personnel, whether it was Navy, Air Force, Marine, like I said, went through unimaginable torture. That's about the best I can put it. And I literally wrote down, I say, everything that you experience when you serve active duty, all of the torture that you experience, because I would be safe to say you're still experiencing nightmares, problems concentrating, or probably many type of symptoms through your life from the moment you were discharged, and you are there to compensate you for your disabilities and symptoms for serving during the Vietnam era. And I say, when you go to this facility, this address, you tell them you want a representative to file your claim for you. Leave nothing out. That is what they are there for. Because I sent him to the same place I went through, to go through the process to get my disability. And I said, if they try to tell you to do it online, you say, no, I want you as the VA representative to guide me through that process and fill out my claim for me and submit it. Because they're going to try to get you to do everything online. They tried to get me to do it also. And I even have people who work for the VA in processing claims. They have even told me, if you try to do all that very detailed information online, because there are hundreds of forms, you don't know which form you need if you're on the outside looking in to figure this out and to fill it out. Because when you do something wrong, it stops everything. No, anything dealing with military service connected disability, I tell any veteran with an honorable discharge, take your behind in person. Take your behind in person to the local veteran service department in your region, and they have those veteran representatives. That's what they're paid to do. They will be able to pull up your military records. If you don't have a copy of your DD-214, they can retrieve that from the military. No, do go in person, because it is too intricate. By me going in person, people, rural, on every appointment I had to go on when I was going through my disability claim with the military, it took me 9 solid plus months before my claim was completed. And within that 9 plus solid months, every single appointment I had to go on, I was in person. People. And I was making copies of everything the military had, I had. Because a lot of times they'll send you multiple letters to go on these appointments with these different providers. Do handle your business in person. I've had representatives, VA representatives, tell me, even though they know those forms like the back of their hand, and if you try to do it online, it's confusing to them. Real talk. So I have gone through the door. I made it my business to share this powerful information, wrote down the information on paper for this Vietnam veteran who served during the Vietnam era, who was sitting down next to me at Dunkin' Donuts, drinking coffee and exchanging stories about our time of service. And he thanked me for the bottom of my heart. And because I literally looked at him, I said, I served during the Desert Storm era. I'm a veteran of the United States Marine Corps. I survived Parris Island, but my era was nothing compared to the Vietnam era, people. Even during my era, it was no joke. There was no big brother, and I'm keeping it real. I couldn't even imagine what he went through. Real talk. And any veteran, any branch of the military, especially who served during the Vietnam era, they got PTSD. They have been exposed to the horror, more unimaginable type of all levels of abuse to the highest level, people. There was no big brother. And to survive that and to serve your time honorably and get an honorable discharge is amazing to me. And I even told him, my time ain't nothing compared to what you went through. Even though Parris Island ain't no joke. I survived Parris Island during the Desert Storm era. Women had to go through the same thing men go through during that era. Yeah, they put your hands on you. Yeah, it's stuff I probably would never remember in terms of what I went through to survive my time serving in the United States Marine Corps and got my honorable discharge. And yeah, you better believe I got my service-connected disability. I get my VA disability, retirement disability income for the rest of my life, medical for the rest of my life. But you know what? I earned it. I earned that title, and I earned that service-connected benefits. Real talk, people. And so I made it my business to share my knowledge with him, because I have gone through the door to get my service connected. And that Vietnam veteran is due his also. And I didn't just rattle things off. I wrote things down on paper. This is where you need to go. This is the address. This is the time, Monday through Friday. And do not let them try to get you nothing to do nothing online. No, you tell them I want to be represented by a veteran service representative to file my disability claim. They can pull your military records from during the time you served during the Vietnam era, from 1959 to 1975, with your honorable discharge, and you should be compensated. Real talk. And I made it my business to share that powerful information, the correct information with that veteran. Because like I said, Marines and Navies, we serve hand in hand. We are in the same division, the same department. Real talk. And we owe it to anyone. If you have information about a process that you have gone through, it can be any kind of process, an application process, benefits process, the process to get certain jobs or certain credential, and you meet somebody who's trying to go through the same door, you need to share that information, to share that knowledge versus holding on to it. And that's how God will begin to bless us and open up doors for us in all areas of our life. Like I'm telling you, that man thanked me from the bottom of his heart. And what drew me to him, because I pay attention, people. When I'm out in the natural environment, I don't care where I'm going. Coffee shop, bank, running errands. I do not have a phone in my hand. No, I'm paying attention to my surroundings. I'm paying attention who's in front of me, behind me, to the left of me, to the right of me, paying attention to my environment. I pay attention to people. If they got a certain hat on, if it's a military hat, zone in. And I'm going to pay attention. I paid attention to the dates that he had on his hat when I met him at Dunkin' Donut, Vietnam veteran from 1959 to 1975. And when I saw that on his hat, the only thing I could think in my mind, I'm standing before history, and this man has survived Vietnam, and I couldn't even imagine what he went through. I made it my business to walk up to him and to introduce myself and to sit down next to him and engage in dialogue. If I would have been having a phone in my hand, glued to the cell phone, I probably wouldn't even notice that gentleman, that elderly man in that Dunkin' Donut, let alone what kind of hat he had on, let alone the dates that he had under the word Vietnam veteran, 1959 to 1975, the time he served. I would have missed all that. I would have missed all that if I would have been glued to a cell phone in the natural environment at Dunkin' Donut. This is what life is all about, people. We got to carry the message. We got to impart knowledge onto the world when we are coming across people in our everyday comings and goings, rather it's at the coffee shop, at the bank, or the post office, or working out outside, walking on the nature trail. Real talk. The information I gave that man was probably information so valuable, and I heard it in his voice when he thanked me for taking out the time to share that powerful information. And by the time that conversation, by the time our dialogue came to closure, I think I said 2 or 3 or 4 times within that dialogue, make sure you follow up on this information. This is the local facility you need to go to get the ball rolling. And do not let them try to get you to do none of this online. I couldn't even do it online because it's so confusing. You'll be filling out the wrong form and wonder why you ain't heard nothing. 2 years don't go by, you ain't heard nothing because number one, you filled out the wrong form. Real talk. So share this information in regards to we owe it to ourselves to make sure we share the correct information when we're meeting people in the natural environment, especially if it's information in relation to a process you have gone through. Real talk. That's all I have. Simple fidelity, and I'm going to leave you in the care of your own conscience. Have a great day.